Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive into something that's been bugging humans forever?
Oh, yeah, this is a big one.
We're talking revenge. Is it ever really justified? Is it okay?
Right, right.
It's all about Chinese history and culture.
Okay.
And get this, it compares how they tackled this whole revenge thing with the ancient Greeks.
Interesting. Two totally different worlds.
Yeah, but both wrestling with the same human impulses.
So are we all just hardwired for vengeance then? It's human nature to seek revenge for any grievance. Like, it's just part of who we are.
Whoa, strong words. It's like, is it really in our DNA to want to get even?
Yeah.
But is that always true, though? I mean, have there been, cultures or even just individuals who figured out how to just let go of a grudge?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Hmm.
Some people, through some serious self-discipline, can actually move on from even the worst stuff. But I think for most of us, wanting payback feels pretty, well, natural.
Okay, so let's say we do have this urge for revenge. How have societies dealt with it? How do they balance someone wanting to, settle the score with making sure things don't go completely haywire?
Well, this is where our deep dive into ancient China gets juicy. Lays out this fascinating philosophical battle, this tug of war between Confucianism and legalism.
Okay, two major forces in Chinese thought. But for those of us who, maybe haven't brushed up on our ancient philosophy lately, break it down for us.
Sure.
What were their stances on revenge?
Confucianism, with its big emphasis on family and natural order, actually sees revenge as an obligation in certain situations.
Oh, interesting.
Like if someone killed your father, seeking retribution was almost expected.
Wow.
It was about maintaining a balance, a natural order within the family, and by extension, society.
So it wasn't just about rage. There was this deeper societal thing going on. But legalism, that was different, right?
Oh yeah, completely. Legalism is all about the state. The state has ultimate power, and it basically views individuals as, secondary to the law.
Yeah.
So from that angle, revenge is the state's business.
Got it.
Not for individuals to mess with.
So no room for personal feelings of an eye for an eye. Everything had to go through the system.
Exactly.
It reminds me of this dilemma we still see today. Do you follow the law even when you feel like it's failed you?
It's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this tension between what feels morally right and what the law says, that was a very real thing in ancient China. And it's so interesting because, well, the source makes this point that it mirrors our own struggles today.
Oh, that makes total sense. How many times have we seen cases where someone feels like the justice system just let them down?
Yeah.
And they're tempted to just take matters into their own hands.
All the time. Uses this evocative phrase to describe it. Knights who violate the law with their martial arts.
Ooh, okay.
It's talking about vigilantes.
Mm.
Individuals who basically become judge, jury, and executioner.
That's vivid. It's not just an ancient idea, though, right? We see that vigilante archetype in, movies and books, even in real-life situations.
Absolutely.
There's something, almost romantic about someone standing up for what they believe in, even if it means breaking the rules.
Right.
But there are some serious dangers there, too, right?
Huge dangers.
Mhm.
I mean, doesn't vigilante justice basically, undermine the whole purpose of having a legal system?
Totally.
If everyone decides, puts just, anarchy.
Yeah, chaos.
But on the other hand, it asks us to think about why we're so drawn to the vigilante figure.
Huh?
What is it about them that we connect with, even if we don't agree with how they do things?
I think it's because deep down we all know the law isn't perfect.
Right.
Sometimes it misses the nuances or it just fails to deliver the justice someone feels they deserve.
Absolutely.
And then boom, in steps the vigilante. They represent that urge for retribution, for a kind of justice that goes beyond the courtroom. Which brings us to another thought-provoking question there.
Okay.
How should the legal system deal with someone who actually commits an act of revenge?
Whoa, that is a tough one.
Right. On one hand, they broke the law.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, what if they truly felt they had no other choice?
Oh, I see what you mean.
Like guy Yang Qiu from the Eastern Han Dynasty. This guy killed an entire family because they humiliated his mother. And get this, society actually praised him for it.
It does seem extreme, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it highlights how much cultural values can impact our ideas of what's just.
It's like different worlds, right?
Yeah.
In that society, family honor was everything.
Right.
And this Yang Qiu, he was seen as a dutiful son protecting his family's name.
I see.
So how do we untangle this mess? Where's the line between justified revenge and a straight-up crime?
It's almost never black and white, is it?
Okay, so picture this 1930s China.
Okay.
Shi Jianqiao, this young woman, she's planning something big. She's going after Sun Chuanfang, a former warlord.
A warlord?
Yeah, but now he's like a Buddhist layman.
Huh, interesting.
But here's the thing, she doesn't just want him dead. She shoots him right in a Buddhist hall in front of everyone.
Wow. Talk about making a statement.
Right. But to get why this case is so powerful, we gotta go back.
I'm listening.
Years before all this, Sun Chuanfang had brutally murdered Shi Jianqiao's father.
Oh, wow.
And she tried everything to get justice, went through the proper channels, but nothing happened.
So she felt like she was backed into a corner.
Exactly. And instead of like just disappearing, she makes this huge public spectacle of revenge.
That takes guts.
Yeah, and this act just blew up the country. Everyone's debating, was she a cold-blooded killer or was she driven by this, righteous filial piety?
Daughter avenging her father's murder.
Right. It's that same clash we were talking about before, personal morality versus the law. So what did the court do? How did they handle this?
Well, they sentenced her to 7 years in prison.
7 years.
Which was already pretty light for a murder charge.
Huh.
But then she got a pardon.
A pardon.
A special pardon from the government itself.
Whoa, that's huge. What does that tell us about how China viewed revenge back then?
I think it shows how much our values, cultural values, can influence how we see the law. On the one hand, she definitely committed a crime.
Yeah.
But on the other, there was this deep-seated respect for filial piety, the duty to avenge your parents if they're wronged.
So even the government felt that cultural pressure.
Absolutely. They couldn't just ignore it. And it gets even more interesting when you look at what happened to Shi Jianqiao after she was pardoned.
Wait, there's more. What, did she, become a celebrity or something?
She became a national hero. When the war with Japan started, she used her fame to raise money for the Chinese Air Force.
No way. So this woman who had committed murder, she became a symbol of patriotism. That's hard to wrap my head around.
Right. But it really shows the power of her story. For many, she embodied this fierce loyalty, this idea of justice that went way beyond just revenge.
It goes back to that Confucian idea of filial piety, right? Her devotion to her father somehow became this symbol of devotion to her country.
Exactly. It's hard to imagine that happening today, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. It really makes you think about how different cultures view these things. But it also makes you wonder, can revenge ever be truly selfless?
Right. Can it ever serve a bigger purpose?
Or is it always at its core about something personal?
Tough questions.
Yeah.
Something interesting about her motivations.
Oh, yeah.
It says, they believed in her determination to avenge her father as a weak woman, and thus their belief in her determination to avenge the compatriots who died in the large-scale bombings against the Japanese invaders.
So for a lot of people, her personal act of revenge became a symbol of this much bigger fight for justice.
Yeah. And it shows how revenge can be channeled into a broader cause.
Yeah.
It becomes less about personal payback and more about fighting injustice on a grander scale.
Right. It's like avenging her father gave her this fuel, this drive to fight any system that lets the powerful walk all over others. And when the war came, that same fire was there, just aimed at a new enemy.
It's almost like that act, as controversial as it was, ignited something deeper. A sense of righteousness, a need to fight for something bigger than herself.
This just highlights how much our views on revenge are shaped by culture, by history, by all these things that go way beyond just, what's legal and illegal. It's not so simple.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's complex. And that's why this topic is so fascinating. It forces us to really think about our own sense of right and wrong.
Yeah, where do we draw the line?
Right. When does seeking justice turn into something, darker? Something that undermines the very thing you're fighting for?
Those are tough questions. No easy answers.
And that's what I love about these deep dives, They make us think critically. They make us grapple with these, messy issues and maybe question some of our own beliefs.
Well said. Okay, so to recap, we've been exploring how revenge is this really powerful human emotion that often clashes with legal systems and societal norms.
Right.
We've looked at how ancient Chinese philosophers debated it, and we've seen some really fascinating historical examples.
What stands out to you the most? What's really stuck with you?
I gotta say, the Shi Jianqiao case, it's just such a powerful story of how personal tragedy can intersect with these huge social forces. And it brings up so many questions about justice, morality, and, where the law falls short.
It definitely gets you thinking. It challenges us to consider, can revenge ever be truly selfless? Can it serve a higher purpose? Or is it always at its heart a deeply personal act?
Big questions, right. And that's what I love about these deep dives. They really make you think long after the conversation is over.
Exactly. So as you go about your day, here's something to ponder. What's your take on the Shi Jianqiao case? Do you think what she did was justified? Or should she have faced the full weight of the law? There's no right or wrong answer. But thinking about it, wrestling with it, might just reveal something about your own views on justice, revenge, and all that gray area in between.
You know what's really stuck with me from that quote about Shi Jianqiao? It's that part where they believed in her determination to avenge her father as a weak woman, and thus their belief in her determination to avenge the compatriots who died in the large-scale bombings against the Japanese invaders.
Yeah, powerful stuff.
It's saying that her personal act of revenge for many people became a symbol of this bigger fight for justice. Like, those two things were connected in their minds.
Right, and it shows how revenge can be channeled,
Yeah.
how it can become part of a larger cause. Less about getting even and more about standing up against injustice, on a bigger scale.
Exactly. It's like avenging her father gave her this drive, this fuel to fight any system that lets the powerful just walk all over others. And then when the war happened, that same fire was there, only now it's directed at a new enemy.
It's almost like that act, as controversial as it was, it sparked something deeper.
Yeah, yeah.
A sense of righteousness, I guess you could call it. A need to fight for something beyond just herself.
This just highlights how much our views on revenge, they're shaped by culture, by history.
Yeah.
It goes so much deeper than just what's legal and illegal.
Oh, for sure. It's way more complex than that. And that's what makes this whole topic so fascinating and so challenging, too.
Definitely challenging. It forces us to really examine our own sense of right and wrong. Like,
Yeah.
where do we draw the line?
Yeah. Where's the line? When does seeking justice turn into something, I don't know,
Right.
darker? Something that ends up going against the very principles you were trying to uphold in the first place.
Whoa. Tough questions. No easy answers there.
And that's the beauty of these deep dives, right?
Yeah.
They push us to think critically, grapple with these messy issues, and maybe even question our own assumptions a bit.
I love that. Well said. So, to sum it all up, we've been exploring revenge, this intense human emotion, and how it often clashes with legal systems and societal norms.
Right. We've seen it over and over again.
We looked at how ancient Chinese philosophers debated it, and we've examined some truly compelling cases from history.
What stands out to you from all this? What's really resonating with you?
It's funny, but that Shi Jianqiao case, it's just lingering in my mind. Such a powerful example of how one person's tragedy can get intertwined with these huge social forces. It makes me think about justice, morality, all those places where the law just doesn't quite get it right.
It definitely makes you think. And it challenges us to ask, can an act of revenge ever be truly selfless? Can it serve a purpose beyond the individual? Or is it always, deep down, something personal?
Those are the big questions, aren't they? And that's what I love about these deep dives. They give us so much to think about long after the conversation is over.
Exactly. So, here's something to ponder as you go about your day. What's your take on the Shi Jianqiao case? Was what she did justified? Or should she have faced the full force of the law? No right or wrong answer, but wrestling with that question might reveal something about your own beliefs, your own sense of justice and revenge, and all that complicated gray area in between. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone.